Hello, wrestling fans. You're listening to the Wrestling Fans Insight. This is your host, John Hoppe. I'm here alongside with Bryan the Hype Ballard. How's it going, Bryan?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's not Saturday night, but it's Sunday ready.
Yes. Please don't take the background too literal on us today. We also have Carlos. How are you doing?
Good. You mean the fans of pro wrestling, right?
Well, no, because this is
Oh,
the Wrestling Fans Insight show. So
gotcha. All right, whatever. I'm good.
apparently somebody doesn't pay attention to the programming part. So,
I thought we were doing the whole thing. My
well,
bad.
no, it's the fans of pro wrestling as the network, but Sundays are the Wrestling Fans Insight show. So, anyways, welcome to the show, everyone. Today we're got a couple of things going on. Last night on WWE Network on the Peacock, we had the NXT Deadline PLE, which I thought they did a really awesome job, start to finish. Um, I was a little baffled by the way they had the card set, but other than that, I think they did a very great job with performing all night. Bryan, did you get a chance to watch that PLE?
I did not. So it was not a booty call NXT night for me.
All right. Well, I hope she'll call you back one day, Bryan.
I say I'll get a hold of her later.
Okay. All right. Carlos, did you have a chance to watch it?
I did. I thought it was
And
good. Um, I really like the women's. I thought all of it was good. I mean, the only thing for me is just the whole thing with like they're I hope they don't bring up Axiom and Nathan Frazier too quickly because they just had a breakup on both Raw and SmackDown of tag teams or heel turns, I should say, and stuff like that. So I feel like it's being played a little too much. But I thought they all really turned out. Obafemi was really good. Ethan Page needs to be brought up to the main roster already. He's doing such a good job and he's really coming to his own in WWE and NXT. I thought everybody looked good. I really liked I forget her name, the one from the No Quarter Catch crew. She's
Red
really
Sinclair.
Brent Sinclair. She killed it. She'll be like another Chelsea Green for them, just somebody who can do their comedic stuff and it was all really really well again. And then Sol Ruka is a superstar. I know we had Julia and then we had I'm having brain fart
Stephanie
here.
Vaquer.
Stephanie Becker and the girl from Australia too. But to me, it's like Sol Ruka is. I think she'll be the standout star. I mean, her offset moves. She's WWE. She fits their mold to a T. And just again, like I think at first we questioned why Ren and Sol Ruka were in there over some other people, but then you watch the match and it was really played really really well. I was kind of hoping they'd pull. I was really hoping they'd pull the trigger on Ridge because he was so over with all the heat that happened with being the one to bring Chase U to a close. But I get it. They want Obafemi to beat Trick, probably to, and so like it fits. But again, it's really really well done. I really enjoyed the show.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I thought Ring Sinclair really shined out there.
Yeah,
Like definitely in a Chelsea Green like manner. Uh, I have to say, as a fan, I felt bad when she just barely gets out of the cage and then has to go back right in because Soul pinned her right away. But she played the role very well, and
she
I love
did.
and I really loved the fact that Obafemi was the surprise entrance for the men's Iron Survivor. I actually did not have that on my card, but I know
I
there was
did.
I know there was a couple of people that did, like you and a couple others. I believe it was in the DWE group, and a shout out to
Yeah.
so. Um,
Shout out to you. You got your predictions right. You won $50, right?
no, that was
But
on.
yeah, but I'm still saying yeah. You won that on the Survivor
I won
Series,
that
right?
on the week on the Survivor Series. I missed
Yeah,
one match,
nice.
but I think the one that saved me the most was the prediction of Shinsuke actually winning the United States Championship.
Yep.
That's where I earned the big amount of points right there. So, but no, thank you again, DWE, for putting on that contest. It was really awesome to take second or third place, however way you want to look at it, because I believe there was a tie for the first place. So, but anyhow, yeah, again, I thought they did a really great job. I thought Trick and Ridge definitely had an awesome match. Much like you, I was a little surprised they didn't go with Ridge for the win, but again, I guess maybe having Obafemi defeat Trick may be the way to go. And also, I thought actually, I mean, Nathan Fraser definitely deserves kudos pulling double duty last night as well. Selling off being hurt from that Iron Survivor match. And I think he was the only one that got bloodied up too, if I remember right. So, and taping up those ribs, selling that the the brutality he took from that earlier contest, but still managing to retain the championships with Axiom. That definitely tells you that you know this tag team is gonna hold a very big legacy there for the NXT brand. Um, as far as the match between, as far as the match with the,
Jade Parker and Lola Vice.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You knew where I was going. I thought those two ladies killed it. Jada Parker definitely a star, as well as Lola Vice. Both women definitely took each other to the limit there. I was actually a little surprised the brick did not get used, but you know, um, seeing Lola sell off that injury after hitting the ring post and still able to pull off a choke out on Jada Parker there, that was very well done.
And just Jada's facials when she's getting choked out too. It's like she really sold it really, really well. So again, those are the things you got to watch out for that stuff. And I agree with John here too. JB from Georgia. Again, Nathan Fraser getting bloody definitely benefited it and added to the story. But no, I was just again, no, they all did a really good job. And for me, the thing about the whole paper PLE, I should say, is like just trust the process sometimes, like again, like not to, because again, I think when Ren Sinclair first came on screen, it's like, oh my gosh, she's so annoying, and then it's like, like seeing her with the quarter catch crew, but just all these people, even the Jada part, like at first some things feel forced because I think they're gonna just throw them together, like when they first put even Jada Parker with the boys, I forget the name of the group, but it's like, but now it's like it all fits in, like they get their own, they find their way, and they're getting their feet, they're finding their rhythm now. So it's like, just remember that a lot of these guys are new to it. A lot of them are in NFT or whatever you want to call it. They're athletes. They weren't in the business. So it's like, just just give these people time and patience, because I think a lot of it's paying off. Even so, Ruka, she looked really, really good in the ring. And when she did her move off the ropes too, just the side of it, her modified RKO thing, it was just, everything was just really good. Like again, I really, really enjoyed the show.
And Brian, you really need to go back and watch this.
Yeah.
I really think you're gonna enjoy that entire PLE event.
Yeah, I was hearing you guys talk about the results, and I always like the NXT Underground matches. I just think those are just kind of a fun concept. So it'll probably be on my list. So thank you for the influence on it.
Well, because for me too, like when I was honestly watching it, like because I was working last night, and so I watched the men's Iron Survivor on my lunch. And then when I was on this Iron Survivor, when I was on X, like somebody put one of the people in one of the chats put, like they put, stand and deliver, or not stand and deliver, but deadline greater than Survivor Series. I'm like, come on. And after watching, like, yeah, it definitely was. It was definitely from top to bottom was really entertaining. None of the matches really dragged. I think Trick and Ridge were probably the worst match, but even like that, it was entertaining, but it's like, yeah, it was really well done. That crowd was awesome. I like the whole time I'm watching that, like honestly for me, like that's a building I think that AEW should run, because it's small and the aesthetics of it, it was really, really fun. The whole thing was really, really cool. I liked it. Again, just everything about it top to bottom was a home run.
And JB from GA, a lot of times I think these characters are one-dimensional, like Lola Vice from before her first Underground match. Now I'm seeing the new elements with her serious demeanor last night and her hair in braids.
That's a good point that I always like to say. Whenever I watch these shows, I tell people that it's, training in progress, right? Like that's the training ground to go work at WWE. So not everybody's going to get everything right in training. They're going to develop themselves at NXT in the training program. So I always kind of keep that in mind too, which lowers my standard a little bit when I watch it. And then I always just end up pleased when I watch the shows. I don't think I've ever given him really a bad review ever.
But I also think that's why it's important to do little things like that. Like, if I think, because especially with Lola Vice, for example, like they turn her to a baby face. I think she's more of a natural heel, and I think sometimes it's important to remember, like they're gonna throw these things at these guys, like losing a championship, they're gonna make them heel face, because this is where they're trying to learn things, and they're gonna give them situations that are gonna occur to them on the main roster. So I think it's important for them to do that and see how they handle it. But in the long run, she'll be better as a heel, but at the same time, like giving her a match that fits her style and getting to see her shine, that'll give her even more confidence when it just comes to being in the ring. Like give them those moments to shine and hit it out of the park, and that'll just help their overall mental health as far as being a better performer all around.
Oh, we got another one. Sorry. Keel, they should have Bret Hart do some training in NXT, or at least get him in storytelling. His in-ring work was top notch. I love the comment, but I think some of them are doing fine as they are now. But Bryan, sorry.
Yeah, no, I love the idea because, nobody is like Bret Hart in the history of it, right? And he comes from a dungeon, literally, of, where they trained the best. But you would be asking him to get along with Shawn Michaels and to work directly with him, very directly. So that, could be an issue of why not.
Well, I don't know, because I think Bret and Shawn would work a little more. Will definitely work a lot better now than what they have in the past, though. But I do get what you're saying, is because of their contrast in styles too.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of the reason why a lot of times we haven't heard Triple H and Bret get along so much either, is, just their different takes on wrestling. And much like the backstage stories you would hear too, like when Ric Flair would knock on Mick Foley, or Ric Flair knocks on Bret Hart, and vice versa,
Yep.
So, but anywho, any final thoughts as far as last night's deadline, Carlos?
My one thought about it, and this isn't, and the only thing is, I think I would love to see them move this to like February, and then have it be the PLE before Stand and Deliver, because to me it's such a big match for them, and again they found their match that's kind of their niche. And for me, it's have the person go in to fight the person for Stand and Deliver, instead of just going to fight somebody on New Year's Evil. I feel like that's my one thing I was thinking after watching it, because it was so good, and they have found it and made it their own, and both the Iron Survivor matches are really good. I would just suggest maybe moving it to February, or that time, so then the winner gets to fight on their WrestleMania weekend. Stand and Deliver. That's the one thing I would think coming out of this.
All right, Bryan, do you share the same thoughts there?
Yep.
Are you taking over William's spot today?
I am.
Okay.
I think you guys are hitting things great, and I'm good with that.
All right. So, anyways, why don't we get into the meat and potatoes of today's show? This was actually more of Bryan's project, so he kind of deserves the kudos, and I've just kind of had to kind of help do some of the graphics and some hopefully implements or outline for today. But first little bit I want to get into with the Saturday night's main event, that they do have a PLE coming up next Saturday on the 14th. 3 matches so far, what's advertised, but there could potentially be another match or 3.
There's 4. Which one are you missing?
The only ones I've seen so far was the Liv and Io Sky, Gunther and Finn Balor, and Cody and Kevin Owens. What's the 4th one?
They're gonna have the winners. The finals of the women's U.S. title will be on there as well.
Okay. So we don't know that one quite yet, correct? Not till Friday.
Yeah, but we can always guess who we think it's going to be.
I have no idea, so I haven't been paying that close of attention to that aspect. So
the finals, it's Chelsea versus Bailey, and then it's Mia Yim versus Tiffany Stratton.
Okay. When we get to that point, we'll discuss it. But the first little bit for the Saturday night's main event, I kind of wanted to cover our top 5 moments of the back in the day when Saturday night's main event was a special program on NBC. Usually, for me, it came on like right after Saturday Night Live. I don't know if it was the same for you guys in your day, but it was a very special event. It seemed like it used to come on once a quarter, or if not once every 4 or 5 months. And most of the time, if you would see Saturday night's main event, you for sure knew you were getting at least one main character. And I believe it, outside the live events, it usually was always involving Hulk Hogan. Bryan, what about you? What's the first thing that you think of when you hear Saturday night's main event?
Yeah, for me, it was special, right? Like you're staying the night in elementary or middle school or whatever grade you were in at the time. You're staying the night at a friend's house. Maybe you have been out playing football all day, and then you're inside, you're ready to settle down, and then wrestling's coming on because that's we watched wrestling. We would take the cushions off the couch, jump off the couch, do our elbow drops. The friends' parents would get mad. But it was always cool to have that much energy around midnight Eastern time, right? And when the parents are just like, go to the basement, and just do your wrestling stuff. But it was so cool because it did feel special because it only came on, like you mentioned, 3-4 times a year. And it was like, wow, I'm seeing wrestling. I'm seeing Hulk Hogan. My parents are already in bed, so I can just watch this with my friends. And so it's a lot of nostalgia for me there. And I always felt like it felt like a free pay-per-view to me, right? Like, because back then you had to pay for pay-per-views, and sometimes you couldn't talk your parents into paying for those pay-per-views. So this was kind of like the free way to watch a free pay-per-view on a Saturday night and see the Hulk Hogans, the Ultimate Warriors, among many others. So it was just a lot of great things. The best thing I remember, though, is I've always enjoyed the promos at the beginning and the iconic music of Saturday night's main event. And that's something I'm hoping we see here in the future as well.
What about you, Carlos?
So I'm gonna be the old man on my porch right now, right? These kids today don't know how good they have it, right? Because when we were kids, like literally, we got Wrestling Challenge and we got WWE Superstars on the weekends, but it was always a superstar versus a jobber, right? And then like maybe you would get like one like kind of decent match. So for me, like what Bryan was saying, it was like Saturday night's main event. I discovered it after I first watched WrestleMania 3. And again, the same kind of feeling, like getting to stay up late at night. It was like a treat because again, I didn't get to stay up late unless it was to watch wrestling. And so it was just like it was an event. And again, back in the day, we didn't have like they weren't worried about the ratings wars, things like that. They weren't making big money, so like they didn't put on big events on just regular television. So for me, those Saturday main events were special because they were like, it was like almost like a little mini pay-per-view. You got all these special matches, and it was just really cool in the storylines, and they felt very special. So they were always real fun.
JB from GA, back in the 80s and 90s with only 3 to 4 pay-per-views per year, Saturday night's main event was one of the few times outside of those to see non-squash matches, more geared toward the live events back then. Much like what Carlos just said, that was one of the best things about when the Saturday night's main event was coming on was, and also like Bryan said, this was like free pay-per-view here. And like mentioned earlier, that was one time, Hogan was going to be wrestling for sure. If whether it was a championship defense or a tag team match or some kind of special grudge match, you knew eventually you were going to see some of your favorites on there. Keel, Ultimate Warrior was my guy to watch when I was a kid. Superhero characters were so much fun. And back in those days, yeah, I mean, Vince had a different image where the characters weren't so much real life like what you would see in the competing promotions like Jim Crockett and all that. We had characters like the Ultimate Warrior, Hillbilly Jim, Macho Man Randy Savage, the Honky Tonk Man, um, kind of your typical superhero versus the villains and whatnot. But yeah, as far as, why don't we go ahead and get right to maybe our top 5 moments? We'll start off with number 5. Bryan, what was your number 5 moment probably from Saturday night's main event?
Yeah, so for me, it was I remember when the Mega Powers were formed. I remember that was like a big deal at the time. Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, and that happened on a Saturday night's main event. And then, of course, we get almost a year later when the Mega Powers exploded, and that was, you know, leading into the WrestleMania 5 main event. So that was, I'd say, number 5 in one of my lists.
Carlos?
I'm gonna go with the Rockers versus the Hart Foundation. I remember that being a cool tag team match, so I'm gonna go with them.
Now, is that the one where the ropes were broken and the Rockers were the WWF Tag Team Champions?
They should have been, yeah.
That's one that I will always scratch my head on. Is okay, you continued it, you should have stuck with it, but they changed it, which I don't think was very fair to Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels back then, but it is what it is. If I was to give my number 5 moment, I would have to say it would definitely go to Mr. Perfect destroying the WWF Championship back then, because one of the biggest things that you always saw as a heel tactic was to always steal the championship belt away from the face at the time. But this one kind of went to a new level. This went to where someone actually destroyed the belt on TV. And I can't imagine what anybody would think to destroy something that was so costly. But, you know, back then they probably didn't care. They probably already had duplicates ready on hand. I know there was some kind of urban, I guess you can say urban myth that championship was also the one possibly taped up to use to make the WWF Hardcore Championship back then. How true that is, we don't know. It would be awesome if somebody would confirm that one day. But why don't we go on to number 4 and we'll start with Carlos.
The Mega Powers versus the Twin Towers. That was again like what was already said to me. The biggest thing I remember out of, and again, a lot of this, again, it was the Hulk Hogan show, right? I mean, that's what Saturday's main event was. It was Hogan, again, the champion. That's the one time he'd work again, you know, because you wouldn't see Hogan wrestling on main event, you know, on Superstars or Challenge. So again, it was the one time you got to see him wrestle out of a pay-per-view if you didn't go to a house show. So again, it was, and again, I think, again, with how we find out who Hulk Hogan is as a human being now, it's so easy for us to all kind of shit on him, because again, it's like he's not the greatest human being, but as a wrestler, I mean, it was built around him, you know. And I think it's hard for anyone to ever really say they weren't Hulkamaniac back then. I mean, everyone, you know, said their prayers, ate their vitamins. So it was built around him. The WWE was built off his back, and so again, for me, it reflects on him. But again, to me, that was a great story, a year-long story of the Mega Powers and then them exploding and then eventually leading to Macho Man versus Savage at WrestleMania 5.
Bryan?
Yep, and I'm going to continue that narrative right on to the Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan build up to WrestleMania 6. So again, the Hogan show continues here with my pick. That is where I really just bought into wrestling fully, seeing two superheroes going at it, and I could not, for the first time, see either of them losing, right? Like, and I was like, ooh, one of these guys has to win, and I don't know who it's honestly going to be. And that led to one of my favorite, you know, WrestleManias of all time, WrestleMania 6. So there's the nostalgia factor, but there was like two superheroes going at it on real life TV. So the Hogan Warrior buildup happened on WrestleMania and on Saturday night's main event.
I would have to say my number 4 was definitely the most thing you would never believe to see if it didn't actually happen in front of your eyes. This was the for the WWF Championship, Andre the Giant winning it from Hulk Hogan, but the shenanigans was Hogan's shoulder was up and the referee still counted 3. Lo and behold, Andre the Giant then announces he was going to relinquish the championship to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And that was what was even more scattywampus was we then see another referee where we now see we have two different Hebners, Earl and Dave. And that threw quite a wrench in everything because nobody knew what to believe then. And that led to that ended up leading to the WWF Championship Tournament at WrestleMania 4, which for those of you who've never seen WrestleMania 4, I encourage you to go back and watch it, but please make sure you give yourself plenty of time because I believe that one was a 4 or 5 hour WrestleMania at that time, which was not very heard of or not very often happening back then. But yeah, and I believe at that time that was when Randy Macho Man Savage actually ended up winning that from Ted DiBiase because both Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant both got themselves pretty much eliminated from that tournament. So going on to number 3, I'm going to start off with the first ever cage match on television for WWF, which was between Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff. The reason why I kind of have that in my top 5 is because you really never saw cage matches on television, but mostly on the pay-per-views. Bryan, you're number 3?
Yeah, it's exactly the same one. It is the cage match for Hogan and Orndorff. And just because of the unique finish, we didn't know who won, right? Because you had the exact guys dropping at the end of the cage, who touched first, and there was so much controversy that led into more story. And so that was my number 3 moment as well, and a fun match.
Carlos?
I'm going to go with that Brutus the Barbecue Cake shaving Ron Bass's head.
Nice. I vaguely remember that, but now that you brought it up, I do remember one of those moments. But yeah, that was very awesome. Sorry, got some itchiness going on today. Why don't we go on to number 2 and we'll start with you, Bryan.
All right. So my number 2, I actually had the Hart Foundation Rockers match that Carlos mentioned earlier. That's where I got introduced to like the tag team style of the WWE was through Saturday Night's Main Event. And as I started watching the Rockers, I just thought it was so cool because they did everything in sync. It kind of reminded me of the Cobra Twins from G.I. Joe, right? And I was like, so I think because of Sergeant Slaughter and the Cobra Twin, and I kind of tried as a kid, to compare cartoons to wrestling. And I was like, oh my gosh, the Rockers are like the Cobra Twins, right? And so I just was like, everything's on the double and they do everything. And then it just made me realize how well balanced those two teams were and how well they worked together.
Carlos?
My number 2 is going to be with Bryan's. I think number 4 was just Hogan and Warrior. Their program on there because again for me, like Ultimate Warrior was my first, like that's my guy. So like getting to see him win, and I remember even watching it at home. Like my mom and I were rooting for Ultimate Warrior. Everyone else in the household was rooting for Hulk Hogan. And then like, I remember Ultimate Warrior beating Hogan, and I remember like running around the house, like patting my chest like Ultimate Warrior. So it's like just that whole build up to that feud, and then Vince deciding to pass the torch to Warrior. That again, just I was trying to that's my number 2. Just that whole program.
And I'm not sure where this ranks for JB from GA. I'm picking Shawn Michaels winning the Intercontinental Championship from the British Bulldog. That definitely is an honorable mention in my top 5. Unfortunately, didn't make it there, but the one thing that I was a little shocked with was the short reign the British Bulldog had with that championship after winning it off Brett, because the direction was having Brett win the WWF championship off of Ric Flair at the time, with Flair going back to WCW after leaving there. I believe it was a year and a half from that point in time. For Kill, any Hart Foundation match for me, the Fabulous Rougeaus were a great tag team as well. And I have to say, yeah, Fabulous Rougeaus, I think, didn't get enough credit as a tag team back in those days because they were very funny in their role back then. especially being a couple of preppy boys from Canada. Let's see, we were on our number 2 moment. If I was to pick a number 2, I would definitely have to go with what Carlos mentioned earlier, was the unfortunate split up of the mega powers when the mega powers were taking on the Twin Towers, and Elizabeth got knocked off the ring, and Hogan took Elizabeth to the back, and Savage was starting to show his crazy obsessive side with what was going on and the jealousy of Hogan and Elizabeth, which really wasn't going on, but unfortunately for Randy, his paranoia got the best of him, and we saw how quickly things turned out in the end result after WrestleMania 5. And now we get down to our number 1. Carlos, what's your number 1 moment from Saturday night's main event?
My number 1, I think, was Bryan's number 5. I mean, it was Andre beating Hogan for the belt. I mean, that was crazy. And the 2 Hebners and everything else. And again, like just talking about like the past, like that next week was the house show at Arc Arena in Sacramento, and I went to it. So we got to see it was Ted DiBiase with the WWE title, defending it against Bam Bam Bigelow, because it was before Jack Tunney had made his ruling, so it was just kind of cool back then that's something that we got to see in Sacramento that probably no one else really got to see again, unless they were on your house show circuit time, was Ted DiBiase actually with that title, like claiming himself to be the world champion. So for me, I was just shocked, because again, Hogan had been champion for so long, and then again, like seeing it happen on Saturday night's main event, that whole thing was just very shocking as a kid. Like, what's going on? And again, good versus evil, it was a very shocking moment for me. So definitely that's number 1 for me by far.
All right, Bryan, let's get your number 1.
All right. So before I get to my number 1 moment, I'm going to give an honorable mention, because a lot of Saturday night's main event was branded in that 80s, 90s era. But I want to give an honorable mention to the modern era past the year 2000, when they tried to bring back Saturday night's main event. And if you go back, it was WrestleMania main event versus WrestleMania main event in 2006. It was Triple H and John Cena tag teaming up against Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, and Rey Mysterio. So if you guys actually go back and look, it was a fun match and a fun concept to lead into WrestleMania, where you've seen these opponents having to team up and create an unlikely alliance for Saturday night's main event. So that's my honorable mention. But my number 1 overall moment is simply a lot of moments. It's the promos. Saturday night's main event did promos like nobody else. From the beginning of the show, when it came on, you said, "What's this?" with that classic, intense music in the background. And you got all of the promos from guys that you were going to see that night. And then you also got backstage interviews throughout the night leading up to these matches, and even post-match interviews. And I think that's something that sometimes we don't see enough of, and the art of the interview has went a little dormant. But I'm hoping we're going to see a lot more of that kind of stuff in Saturday Night's revamp next weekend, where we get, those classic, tell us why we're interested in watching tonight, staying up so late, and then tell us why we're getting ready to be excited for this matchup. So I'm going to give my promos overall as my number 1.
You're right. For my number 1, it was it probably seems a little low on most people, but for me, it was when Demolition lost the WWF Tag Team Championships against the Brainbusters, and it was a shocker because Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard not too long ago left the NWA WCW due to some backstage problems with the WCW management at the time. And, it was just weird to see how a team that was so familiar in the South come up north and just take those championships right away after debuting just not too long ago. But Arn and Tully were definitely a really great tag team. And the reason why I like to shine that as my number 1 is because tag team wrestling back then was really great. And I don't understand how WWE has dropped the ball with the tag team division recently, but I would love to see it get back to that level once again. Anyways, probably one of my more honorable mentions definitely would be Hulk Hogan defending the WWF Championship at against Mr. Perfect. I thought they had one hell of a killer match. Keel saying Hogan versus the Genius. I'm sure the match has happened. I just don't recall it in the past. Have to
It
go
was
back
a fun moment.
I remember
Yeah.
that. Then Hogan and Warrior fought the Genius and Mr. Perfect too.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, there was a lot of great memories as far as Saturday night's main event, and I guess we're getting a throwback coming up here. Recently, if any of you listen to the Chris Van Vliet Insight podcast, sorry, still kind of getting over the bad air here in Utah. Jesse the Body Ventura, who has recently just signed a new Legends deal with the WWE. Jesse the Body Ventura is going to be on Saturday night's main event. I hope he's going to be in the broadcast booth. So it would be very cool to get that kind of a retro. What's your thoughts on that, Bryan?
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I feel like you're going to get Jesse back in the booth, which is just going to tickle that nostalgia factor. I would say look for the WWE to make use of these Legends contracts. And I would expect that you guys are going to see a lot of old school wrestlers make appearances on the show on Saturday. So I think, that's definitely kind of what I've, expect to come and what to happen on the show.
Carlos?
I'm going to echo what Bryan said. They've been signing a lot of these Legend contracts, and for me, like when you're hearing things like Kevin Sullivan looking for money for medical bills, and then unfortunately his passing away, and recently it was gosh, who else was it just recently? Oh, and Barry Windham too. Same thing, going through stuff. I really champion, again, with all the money that they're making. And again, how they tout it. That's just something I would love to see come out of this, is just them taking better care of those people who built this company on their backs and sweat and tears and their sacrifice of their families. So the more Legends, the better. I think this is a cool concept. I do think it's about money for them, right? So it's a win for pro wrestling, and I hope they do lots of nostalgia acts. Just again, I think it makes it fun for the fans too. I'm all for it. The more nostalgia, the better.
Carlos, you guys want to give a prediction of maybe one Legend we think will show up?
Jimmy Hart.
Okay.
Oh.
I will go with Greg the Hammer Valentine.
I'm kind of hoping the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
I would love to see
that one too. He was the first one I thought of too. Like, he'd be another one too.
What about the Honky Tonk Man?
I could see him. I could even see him and Greg Valentine. They had a tag team back then. I could see those two making an appearance.
Oh, Rhythm and Blues.
Rhythm and Blues. And Jimmy Hart was their manager, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Honka honka honky love.
Up until the Honky Tonk Man slammed the guitar over Greg the Hammer Valentine. All right. Going forward, now that we've kind of went back in the past there, now let's kind of roll to the future. Again, WWE is going to do a Saturday night's main event next week on the Peacock Network there on December 7th, Saturday. Be sure to check out the time that it's going to be getting on air, more than likely probably the 7 p.m. Eastern time. But again, I don't know because it seems like they change it every so often. We do have 4 matches as we discussed earlier. Why don't we go ahead and kind of get into our predictions as far as the women's U.S. tournament? Carlos, where you kind of gave us the update on how that's going, why don't we start with you and your thoughts?
So I think what's going to happen with this, I think you're going to see a lot of shenanigans. So in my prediction, I think that we maybe see like a Bailey. We've seen Naomi cost Bailey this week, and so then I think it'll be Tiffany Stratton. I think it'll be Tiffany and Chelsea in the finals, and then I'm going to predict that Nia does something to cost Tiffany, and so I'm going to say Chelsea wins the title, and then from there, because Nia cost her the title, we'll eventually see a cash in by Tiffany on Nia Jax.
All right, Bryan.
I am going to go with Chelsea winning. And I actually think that, to Carlos' point, there can be some shenanigans that happen, but I feel like they could revisit for the United States Women's Championship. They could revisit the dumpster match that her and Mia had, and I think Chelsea could get the title and get a little revenge there.
Oh dear, you had to bring that back up, didn't you?
I love that match.
I'm kind of with you guys. When they had one of the qualifying matches here at the SmackDown in Salt Lake City, our arena was popping loud for Chelsea Green, and I really think she definitely is going to be the one they should put the championship on. But I think in the finals, it definitely come down to Chelsea and Mia Yim. But you cannot go wrong with either person winning that title. Thank you, Patrick Pucci, for coming on and checking us out on the X app. Shenanigans is our game here at the Wrestling Fans Insight on Sundays. But no, either of those two ladies definitely have earned that spot to win that United States Women's Championship. I think it would make better sense to put it on Chelsea, but again, Mia Yim is also not a bad person to have win that either. The next match, why don't we go ahead and get into the World Heavyweight Championship? Champion Gunther will be defending against Finn Balor. I'll go ahead and state what I'm going to think we're all thinking. Damian Priest gets involved. He's going to cost Finn Balor this opportunity. And once again, Gunther is going to retain. Bryan, your thoughts?
I'm going to mirror exactly what you said. I think that's got to be the natural ending and just another notch in the belt for Gunther as he moves on towards Mania.
Carlos?
I rolled my eyes when you said that. I'm gonna just leave it at Gunther wins. I'll just leave it there.
You rolled it because it's true, or because
because it's just like I thought we were done with this feud. I just don't. I'm gonna shout it because they said that Finn Balor has really evolved as a locker room leader and he has big things coming for him for 2020. So I'm happy for that. But just the way they presented the Judgment Day on TV and this, I'm just not interested in this match. I feel like it's just filler. But again, just story. It's not matching up storyline wise. So we thought they were done with each other. Now they're bringing it back in. I just rather these guys that all moved on from each other. But it is what it is. I'm happy to see Finn getting this opportunity, even though he hasn't been built correctly to get it. But I'm happy for him as a talent.
All right, for the Women's World Championship, Liv Morgan will be defending against Io Sky. Why don't we start with Carlos on his prediction?
Oh, definitely Liv Morgan. I don't think that that title is gonna be her and Rhea. I think they're gonna extend this out to WrestleMania. But again, I hope they show out. I think they both have the capabilities to show out. And I hope to be pleasantly surprised by this match. But I definitely see Liv Morgan retaining.
And before we go to Bryan, JB from GA, my prediction is that Nia, Candice LeRae are going to help Tiffany get to the finals to try to keep her distracted from Nia's title. When Chelsea beats her, they will turn on her, and Tiffany may even call her shot and announce her match against Nia ahead of time. You guys want to add anything to that?
It's kind of. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I could see that playing out, and that would give a nice little title match at Royal Rumble, and then they can move ahead from there. I like that.
Kind of this, I like against kind of same ballpark of where I was going with. So again, I agree with that. I think there's going to be shenanigans. Leave it at that.
Shenanigans? No, that never happens. Hello to the Island DWE. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you guys. I can't really see them putting this on Io Sky. I think she's been just she's been more involved with teaming up with Kairi Sane right now, that I hope the focus is for them to win the women's tag team championships once again, but who knows? As far as the last match though, Oh, did we get Brian's prediction?
I'm
Sorry.
with you guys on that. Exactly.
Sorry.
Liv. No, you're good.
I'm sorry. I got a lot going on at the moment. While we move on to the very last match, and we'll have Bryan go first, but for the WWE Undisputed Championship, the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes will be defending against former friend Kevin Owens. And Bryan, let's start off with you.
Yeah, I see Cody retaining his title. I do see it being a fun match. I think they've, put a lot into this, and they've made this the anchor of Saturday night's main event's return. I wouldn't be surprised to see, maybe even a little Randy Orton appearance for fun or something like that, just to lead this into maybe a triple threat down the road. So that's kind of my overall thought.
Carlos?
I'm gonna go with the surprise. I'm gonna go KO to win the title. I think that he's re-signed with the company. He needs to be rewarded for that. I think Cody wins it back right away. I think it'll be a quick title thing, but why not? Why not go for a surprise? Give people a reason to want to tune in to Saturday's main event. And again, I think I can see even Cody champion for Kevin Owens. I think that he deserves a proper title again, just to win it, even though he was the Universal Champion. I'm gonna go with KO to win this. I think it's something shocking. I think it does lead to what Bryan's saying. I think that if it's true that The Rock's not going to work WrestleMania again, I don't trust. I think it could be downplay. I could see some shenanigans. I could see it leading to a storyline where Randy Orton gets involved too, and eventually a triple threat, and eventually leads to the Randy Orton heel turn as well. But I definitely think that's the road they're going down. But I'm going to go with Kevin Owens for the win.
I like your idea. I just hope they don't have Cody win it back too fast. Because I think Kevin Owens, he's earned the respect to have a proper title reign. I think they should have had him defend the Universal Championship against Jericho and not drop it to Goldberg back then. But
100%. Yep.
It is what it is. That was a very frustrating thing that I think most of us Kevin Owens fans felt. I would definitely love to see Kevin Owens win this. However, I'm kind of with Bryan. I think Cody ends up keeping this championship, and like you guys, if The Rock isn't going to be there at WrestleMania, and who knows, they fooled us once. Shame on us. Fool us twice. Shame on them. But I think I got that backwards. Anyhow, no, I really would love to see Cody and the Roman, but having a triple threat between Cody, Randy, and KO, I think that would be some money right there as well. Why don't we go ahead and get into some closing thoughts? Why don't we start off with Carlos?
Again, I just want to say a fun time to be a wrestling fan. Again, we can say what we want, but this is, again, something on free television. I think it's exciting. The more pro wrestling, the better. The more chances for the talent to get showcased, the better. I'm looking forward to this and watching this show and seeing what they do with it. And again, and it's just nice to go down memory lane, and kind of re-talk about what made us pro wrestling fans. Again, just a nice little nostalgia. And just a quick shout out to NXT. They keep killing it. One thing I want to say is I love how, on the last Tuesday show, it was normalized. There was 3 women's matches on NXT that they closed out with the women's segment. I just love how that brand has normalized women's wrestling on their show, and it doesn't seem out of pocket to see 3 or 4 matches, to see the women closing, opening the show. Just kudos to that brand, and I hope they keep going in that direction.
Bryan?
So I'm going to close out with a challenge to the IWC. This week, in your watching of wrestling, pick one Saturday night's main event, doesn't matter which one, on Peacock, randomly play it, build up a little bit of that nostalgia factor, and then come Saturday night, dive into the new version of it, grab your wrestling buddy, sit there on the couch with it, and just enjoy the show and let nostalgia take over for one night and just have a little fun.
I'm already taking Bryan's advice because that was actually my plan tonight. As I put up our Christmas tree in the living room, Sarah and I are going to go back and watch some of the old Saturday night main event.
Which wrestling buddy do you have?
My wife.
They're gonna put on their Jericho Cruise outfits.
Yeah. See that? Carlos is the only one that brought it up. So, I'm just saying, JB from GA, I'm 100% with Carlos on this one. It would for sure add heat to their feud and might even get more fans solidly behind Cody again. Definitely agree with you on that.
Yep. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, Big Nerd just popped in. Just wanted to come by and say, woo, let's go main event. And also, let's go, Carlos. Everyone else, enjoy the day, enjoy the stream. Can't wait for the event coming up this weekend. Card is stacked. Yep, I definitely agree there, Big Nerd. Thank you for joining us today. My final thoughts, just like Bryan, I would say if you can and if you have time, go binge watch even the Saturday night's main event on the Peacock Network, because you'll find a lot of great matches, great events, and like Bryan mentioned, they did a lot of great promo work on Saturday night main event too. So I promise you won't be disappointed in any of those events. Let's go ahead and get into shout outs. I want to give a shout out to the Saged Up Network. Also, I want to mention, as any of you are watching us live, you see we are now Sportcoin Certified. Definitely go check them out on the X app. They also have a link to their site if you're into crypto. If you're not, that's fine too. Not a problem. But definitely go check them out if you are into the crypto stuff. Also, we're streaming live on the X app through mine or Carlos's timeline. You can catch me at wfincitepod. Carlos, your X handles?
At C3LOS77 and then at Conquer the No.
All right. And Bryan, where can they catch you?
Yep. It's going to be at the Bryan Adkins on Twitter X and at Tap Out Talk on YouTube and TikTok.
All right. And Carlos is on Instagram. Carlos?
At Rainbow Goodness _.
And be sure to go check out Bryan's Tap Out Talk on YouTube at Tap Out Talk. He does a really great job doing some presentations from past PLEs and current pay-per-view and PLEs. Also, you can, if you've been following us here on X, you can follow our YouTube channel at Wrestling Fans Insight, where you can check out our Sunday shows. Also, be sure to check out Carlos and Stampede on X, as they do spaces once or twice a week, just depending on what's going on. Carlos, you got a next space coming up this week?
Yeah, I'll be definitely doing a Monday, and because again, it's going to be a fun show. And then also Wednesday, Winter is coming for AEW, so again, it's going to be a big Wednesday for them. So we'll definitely be doing spaces this week on both those nights.
And definitely check out our friends at the Island of DWE, as they do a bunch of spaces themselves. They put on some great ones almost every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think they do some Saturdays too, I believe. But be sure to go check their content out as well. A few shout out to our podcast friends, Jim over at Fat in the Van, Ted's Takes. Don't make mistakes. Trust Ted Takes. Go check him out on his YouTube, as he does a few video shorts there. Same with Austin Boyer over at the Wrestling World. Bryan, you have any shout outs to give?
No, that's pretty much everybody you guys covered.
Oh, okay. Carlos?
Just like what you said, I'm going to shout out because he joined the show, Patrick Pucci. He does a really fun he does wrestling football spaces on, I think I know it's Friday and it's either Monday or Tuesday. NFL Rumors joins him from X as well. It's a good fantasy football talk and just general football talk in general. With the playoffs starting next week, I would definitely tune in, and again, maybe they can help you win your fantasy football championship this year. Also, just a shout out to again, Big Nerd joining us as well. He does content creation on YouTube. Just again, if you guys have the time, and just content creating is not easy, take it from us. So if you have the time and you find people with different passions, just support fellow content creators. I think we all help each other grow, and then I think that's just an important thing. So just again, support those who support you.
And I echo the comments from Carlos. We all have plenty of room on the table out there to eat, so don't be afraid to promote other people's stuff. I mean, we're here to help each other, and as long as we're out here, we're gonna sit here and support each and every one of you as much as we can. So Any last things before we go, Carlos?
I just, again, quick shout out, if you haven't been watching AEW recently, they're doing a lot. They're doing really good thing with their Continental Classic. Give it a watch. It's really fun wrestling right now. And again, just overall, good time to be a pro wrestling fan. I mean, between AEW, WWE, you got TNA, you got MLW, you got so much different promotions going on right now. Like, again, if you're frustrated with the product, you have the time. Give your time to watching something new and supporting talent. Because again, it's about the talent. Let's support wrestlers. Let's make sure they can make a good living. And again, it's a great time to be a pro wrestling fan.
Bryan?
I was just going to say, here on Wrestling Fans Insight, we're going to be wrapping up the year with some good stuff too. We're going to be doing our end of the year awards coming up in December. So, feel free. We're going to have some fun stuff with that. And thank you guys.
All right. We're going to wrap it up right there. We hope you all have a great week. Be sure, again, go check out Carlos on Monday night there with his space, Raw Reactions with Carlos. And we're going to call it good. Have a good day, everyone.